If you feel that you have been scammed or taken advantage by Robinhood, sign up at the given link below.
Robinhood is a scam. Let me explain something to you guys. So recently I just went through some documents to see what had happened, because I was missing over 2,000 shares. 1,000 shares from Carvana, 1,000 shares from Vroom. Let me explain something to you guys. I was margin called, okay? And I didn't realize at the time what had happened. They told me that I was, losing some stock and that they were going to sell some of my shares to cover my margin. I didn't realize how much it was. They actually sold over half of my positions. They sold all my positions in Vroom, over half my position in Carvana. And I was like trying to do the math in my head and trying to figure it out just today, just trying to figure it out, because obviously Carvana just was ripping and it was like up to $17 at some point after hours today. And I was like, okay, so it's above my entry point, right? My average order entry point was at $13. So if I never would have gotten margin called, I'd be up, thousands and thousands of dollars, like 12, 13, 14 grand or something. And I was trying to figure it out, and I was like, okay, so why did I get margin called? My average entry point was $13. I DCA'd in at $7, and then I got margin called, and they sold off over half of my shares and all of my other shares of Vroom. And I was just thinking, so I reached out to customer support, and I was talking to this customer support agent. He transferred me to somebody in the margin department. It was a certified broker. He said that he worked for, Robinhood's margin department. And his name was Wes, and he's a lovely guy, just lovely guy. And I asked him, like, okay, so why did I get margin called? Like, what had happened for me to get margin called? Because I never was in deficit, right? Like, I had more money in my account what I had owed, so I didn't end up owing more. So why did I get margin called? My margin requirements was 40%, I believe, at the time. When I first entered into margin, it said 40%. So I was thinking I had more than 40% of my initial value still in there. So I shouldn't have ever gotten margin called. So I asked him, and I tried to see if he could look into it for me, which he did. And what he had told me is going to surprise you. I don't think a lot of people know this, because I definitely did not know this. And maybe that's my fault for not understanding this when I decided to go into margin. But wow, they are crooks. They are scammers, bro. They straight up robbed me. We should call them anti-Robinhood, because they steal from the middle class and give to the billionaires. I couldn't even believe it. I entered in at $7, like I said. My average cost was $13. And the next day, it was very volatile. It dropped down to 7 one day. It dropped down to 4 the next day. So it was a very volatile stock during that time. And during that day that it dropped from 7 to 4, they increased the margin requirements from 40% to 75%. And I had no idea that they could do this. And I don't think a lot of people do. And I even asked them, like, how is that legal? How is that legal that you guys can just instantly change margin requirements when I was already in margin at 40%, knowing that it was at 40%, and then you guys change it to 75% with no notice? Like, how is that legal? They are scammers. They are crooks. They should be arrested. They should be in prison for this. And like, granted, it wasn't the most money in the world, but after doing the math, I'd be up like 20K, close to 20K right now extra if I never got margin called. I timed the market almost perfectly. Almost perfectly. I was off by a day, right? Off by a day, not even. It was a couple hours, really, if you really think about it. And if they never would have margin called me, I'd be up right now. Instead, I'm down 2,000 shares of Vroom and Carvana. Listen to this. I'm going to read this for you guys just because I couldn't believe it. I had to look and find it for myself, and I couldn't believe that this was even. It says, we can sell your securities or other assets without contacting you. So they don't need to let you know that they're about to sell your shares. They don't need to let you know that your shares are about to be margin called. They can just do it whenever they want. So before you get into any margin, make sure you understand what you're getting into, because I did not know that, one, they didn't have to notify me, and two, that they could change the margin requirements whenever they wanted. Whenever they wanted. How is that legal? How is that legal? Insane. I'm still mind blown by the fact that this happened. So not only that, but it says you are not entitled to choose which securities or other assets in your account are liquidated or sold to meet a margin call. So even if I were to have gone in and tried to sell certain stocks, to like meet those margin requirements, it doesn't matter because they still would margin call my Carvana stock because it needed to hit 75% margin. So it doesn't even matter if you try to cover it or not, they're going to margin call you. And then it says there's more. It says you can lose more funds on your deposit in the margin account, which I was aware of. You know, if you get into negative equity, like say you lose, 40-50% in your stock in a matter of a day and you're 60% in margin, you're obviously going to be negative. I never put myself in that position on purpose. I knew that I knew it would have to drop significantly for me to even get to that point. So I was covering myself in that sense. It says we can force the liquidation or sale of securities or other assets in your accounts. So that's obviously what they mean by they can just liquidate it whenever they want. Okay. It says we can increase house maintenance margin requirements at any time and are not required to provide you advance written notice. And house is in quotes. I don't know why that is. But it says these changes in policy often take effect immediately and may result in the issuance of a maintenance margin call. Your failure to satisfy the call may require us to liquidate or sell securities in your account. So that right there is what Wes was telling me about in my support case. And I could not believe that that was an actual written out statement on their margin disclosure statement, that they can increase house maintenance margin requirements at any time and are not required to provide you advanced written notice. How is that legal? How is that legal? They don't need to tell you that their margin requirements change from 40% to 75% in a day, less than a day. Man, I'm done with Robinhood, guys, and you should be too, because that's ridiculous. If you guys are still using Robinhood, I'm taking all my money off of there. I'm going to a different platform because that is ridiculous. These guys are straight up crooks. These guys are straight up thieves. They robbed me of close to $20,000, if not more at this point. I don't even know how much it would have been worth. Yeah, about $20,000. They robbed me about $20,000 in stocks based off the valuation today because of that margin call. And I'm sure it's going to be worth a lot more than that too. But the fact that they can change it at any time is absolutely crazy. I just needed to give you guys a PSA. If you guys are in margin and you're using Robinhood, I would highly, highly recommend reading into this because that is absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, I'm hoping that this catches wind. I'm hoping that somebody sees this or it just hits some press somewhere and this goes viral because Robinhood needs to pay for that. That is crazy. They are robbing people, straight up robbing people, robbing their hood, man. All right, that's all I got, guys. If this has happened to you, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And like I said, maybe that's my fault because I didn't read into it too heavily. I didn't know that they could do that. I just didn't think I didn't think that you could just change requirements for margin at any time. Like, if it's stated when you purchase it, that's what it should be for the entirety that you hold that margin position, right? Because that's what you're agreeing to. That's my thought process. Not, I can change it on you with no advance notice and you can lose all your money like that. But be careful, guys. Stop using Robinhood. Plain and simple. Fuck those dudes. All right, I'm out.
If you feel that you have been scammed or taken advantage by Robinhood, sign up at the given link below.